see everybody here this morning. I know some of you have had to travel a great distance. Even Brother Vern had to come all the way from Chicago.
Boy, my arm's tight.
Oh, wow. I got in trouble already this morning. My mom had one of the nurses call me from the nursing home to let me know that she was out of birdseed and she wanted it now. So I got up this morning and I had my coffee and I made it over to Lowe's and I got the birdseed and I took it to the home and I filled it up. So for now I'm in her good graces. I told the class this morning, sometimes you say things that you shouldn't have said, or when you're saying them, you know you worded them wrong. And the ladies wanted to know about Sunday night and Wednesday night going to Ottawa County for the gospel meeting because Brother Jeff from the Perry Street is doing the speaking. I said, there's no problem with Wednesday night. Don already told me there's no problem. I said, let me check with the men about going Sunday night. And the ladies looked at me and started laughing, and I realized there's not a man in presence on Sunday night. They're all women, and really might need to go ask the men the question whether or not the ladies should meet on Sunday night and go to the other congregation, which is no concern. Ladies, if you want to go, the blessing service. This morning I want to start with Judges, the 2nd chapter, and I want to end in Proverbs, the 4th chapter. And I'll miss all the stuff in between. Judges, the 2nd chapter, verses 11, will be the starting point. There are 3 things I want to discuss in the 2nd chapter of Judges. How God saw that Israel forsook him, all the way down through verse 15. How God gave them judges, all the way down to verse 19. And finally, the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel. Starting with verse 11. The children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and they served Baals. And they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and they followed other gods from among the gods of the people who were all around them. And they bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger. They forsook the Lord and served Baal and Ashtaroth. And the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, so he delivered them into the hands of the plunderers who despoiled them, and he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, so that they could no longer stand before their enemies. And wherever they went out, the hand of the Lord was against them for calamity, as the Lord had said, and as the Lord had sworn to them, and they were greatly distressed. Baal is a god of the ancient Canaanites. He was the god of rain. Along with him was Astarte, who was the god of the earth. So when they prayed to the Baal god, it would rain, and Astarte, the god of the earth, would receive the rain and give them crops. Now, if you have an old King James, you'll see the word in verse 11 is Balaam, B-A-A-L-I-M. Baal is a Hebrew noun, singular. I-M on the end of it makes it plural. So the New King James and forward always put an S behind. The Old King James put an I-M in there. And when you wanted to make a worship to Baal, you put up this pillar of stone. And when you wanted to worship the goddess of earth, you put up a tree near the altar that you would also sacrifice to God. It was like, we want to worship God and believe in God, but when things get kind of complacent, we want to believe in Baal. We're going to pray for Baal for rain. And it shows you that when they would forsake God, what would happen to them? They would go out to battle and they would lose. They would be plundered. Their crops would not come in. The people were hungry. The people were poor. The people without good, clean water. And they couldn't win a battle if they had to. God forsook the Israelites because, again, they fell away from him. But all throughout the Old Testament, you'll realize that God never walked away from the Israelites walked away from God. Just as we in the church today who follow the words of Christ and his disciples, his apostles, we don't ever walk away from the truth, we think, but we do, we fall away. Because God never walks away from us, we walk away from him. It's we who turn our backs and live in society and pretend that we have other little gods, whether it be a golf course or a football game or whatever, that preoccupies our time and keeps us away from studying the Holy Word of God. We need to look at the Old Testament with glasses and understand that there is an example of what happens to those people who walk away from God. Even when God told them that if you would depart from me, I will utterly destroy you. They still did it. Drop down to verse 16. Nevertheless, the Lord raised up judges who delivered them out of the hand of those who plundered them. And yet they would not listen to their judges, but they played the harlot with other gods and bowed down to them, and then turned quickly from the way in which their fathers walked, in obeying the commandments of the Lord. They did not do so. And when the Lord raised up judges for them, the Lord was with the judge, and delivered them out of the hand of their enemies all the days of the judge. For the Lord was moved to pity by their groaning because of those who oppressed them and harassed them. And it came to pass, when the judge was dead, they reverted and behaved more corruptly than their fathers by following other gods to serve them and bow down to them, and they did not cease from their own doings or from their stubborn way. So God saw their plight. He heard their complaint. He heard their bitter wailing. Oh God, we don't have anything. We need food. We need water. We need to be saved from our captors. You see, Israel made God a pocket God. When I need him, I'll pull him out. When he's not watching, I'll put him back in my pocket and I'll turn to the other gods of the other nations and be just like them. Do you remember what they were looking for all this time? A king. All the nations around us have got a king, God. But there you are, you're taking care of us and you're not around sometimes and we don't hear you and we don't see you working, so we'll just put you in our back pocket in terms of some of the other gods that we can actually see and touch. There's a word, it's called henothesis. T-H-E-I-S-T-S. Thesis. Henothesis. Which means a God who can be your God, and you recognize him as God, but you recognize smaller gods also. So God's there, we believe in him, but we got these other little gods too. But you know, God didn't fall for that. He would give them a judge because he had pity on them. And when he gave them a judge and they followed the judge, they would win their victories, they would have food, they would not be starving, they would have clothing on their back, their pocket change would not have a hole in it, as Ezra described. They would be successful. They would be serving the Lord. But as soon as the judge would die, they'd go right back to where they were. They were kind of like on that Wheel of Fortune. God, Baal, God, Baal. And whichever one came up, that's who they served at the time. There was no king, and God was trying to tell them that I am a personal God. I will talk with your heads, I will talk with the judge, I will talk with you, I will be your God, I will be your friend, I will give you all that you need. In return, I expect some respect. I expect you to give me praise. I expect you to tell me thank you. But in turn, they wanted a king. They wanted to be like everybody else. It was interesting when they walked into the land of Canaan, there's only a few who actually believed that the land was able to be conquered. Everybody else said the giants were too big. And so when they walked into Canaan and they started removing all these different nations, they forgot that God was on their side when the Amalekites were completely destroyed. Who was with them when the wall of Jerusalem came down? And they forgot. They forgot all the things that God did them to get them out of Israel, out of Egypt, and bring them across the deserts and bring them into a land that was promised to them, and they occupied it and blew away all these armies except for a few. And God left them there for a long time first, to test them and to try them forever and ever. Drop down with me, please, to verse 20. So then the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he said, because this nation has transgressed my covenant, which I commanded their fathers, and has not heeded my voice, I will also no longer drive out before them any of the nations which Joshua had left before he died. So that though them I may test Israel, whether they will keep the ways of the Lord, to walk them as their fathers kept them or not. Therefore the Lord left those nations without driving them out immediately, nor did he deliver them into the hands of Joshua. Canaan was there as a thorn in the flesh. Kind of like, I'm here. I'm waiting for you to come and ask me for supervision or help. And I'm waiting for you to come and worship me, but if you don't think that you need me, I'll leave Canaan there to test you, to prove to you that you do need me.